where we explore how leading ladies across industries make waves and rise above the competition. Join host Angela Merzib and myself, Kim Hayden, as we talk to inspiring business women from entrepreneurs to executives about the strategies and tactics they use to get ahead. From their failures to their successes, you'll get an inside look at what it takes to make it in the business world today. Together, let's discover the power of collaboration and how raising each other up can help us all reach the heights of success. So dive in and join the conversation.
Okay, hello and welcome everybody to Rising Tides podcast. Today I'm flying solo. As you can see, Kim's not here. She is lurking behind the scenes though, helping me out with the tech stuff. She'll be back next time. Unfortunately, she has a bit of a cold. She's on vacation in Mexico, which is a great place to have a cold. But anyway, thank you for joining me today. It's just me and the guest coming on in a second here. So as a branding expert myself, I, of course, love digging in and defining brands and creating them or redefining them. I love learning how others do it too. So today we're going to be talking to our expert. She is a branding and marketing coach, and she's going to be talking to us about finding your brand why and bringing your true self into what you do and why that's super important in order to make your business brighter. So Natasha Bell is our expert. She calls herself Tash. She owns the Sunshine Consultancy, and she says her superpower is her optimism and sunny disposition. So she'll be sharing her take on how to bring that into your business. And she has been in the corporate world for 14 years, and she's always believed that you can only bring your true self into what you do. So be proud of who you are, remain human, bring care, support, and share your knowledge. She, through her sunny disposition, that's her natural state. She has learned how to maintain this even in challenging situations. And she says it's not about being a nice person, it's her superpower. So allowing her to put people at ease, build their trust, and letting her be that non-threatening, trusting advisor in tough situations and helping her build authentic, lasting relationships. So I'm very excited to bring Tash on. Welcome to the show, Tash.
Oh, that was amazing. A really big thank you. God, I feel quite I've got big shoes to fill now, but that's amazing. Thank you, Angela. It's amazing to be here. Really good to be with you.
Oh, we're happy to have you. And you're joining us all the way from the UK. So that's first for our show.
Oh, okay. Well, I have you on the map here. You're up here, so it's nice to see where I would be.
I guess it's flipped because for me it's flipped, but yes, we are up there. But thank you for joining us this afternoon. I guess it would be for you.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah. So I know we are in similar areas of work. But before we talk about that, before we discuss, what we do, what you do for business, I'd love you to share any kind of story, a funny or serious story, just about telling us a little bit more about who you are.
Okay. Well, thank you. This is, I find this very funny, but it has to be, you have to set the context. So when I started my career off in a very corporate world, blue chip company, I was actually surprised to find myself there. As I said, I've got a very optimistic outlook. I'm very bubbly. I definitely bring myself into the room. I am who I am. So sometimes you dial yourself down, but you should always be your authentic self. And I can remember probably, I don't know, I must have been like 4 or 5 months in, still finding my feet in this very, we're going back, kind of 15 years now, very serious corporate world. Everybody was, very agendas. We knew what we were talking about. It was very stilted environment. environment. And my first meeting, and these guys came in, they're all in suits, and there's little Tash sat at the table trying to, work through a marketing plan and not really knowing what I was doing, and thought, I've done this, I've got through this whole hour and not made an idiot of myself. And then as the guy went to leave, he literally he put out his hand, which I thought, okay, so we're going to shake hands, very serious. But as he did it, he kind of did this. And so I thought he was going to fist bump. So I ended up going, and we ended up fist bumping in this really awkward, like, oh my God, like what is happening? But those slow motion moments where you just go, I really just wish, because I was just like, oh, he's changing his so from that moment I kind of thought, do you know what, you're going to be who you're going to be, so enjoy your job, show up as yourself, and just you're always going to do things that are going to be a little bit embarrassing, but you know what, that's all right. It makes for a good story. So that's my embarrassing moment.
Hilarious. That is so funny. So what was he trying to do with his hand?
I don't know, but it was so, I think because we were both kind of going, oh, it was just the most awkward thing ever. And I
just never spoke about it again after that, right? Just, don't look me in the eyes. Don't speak about it again.
Exactly. It was that like, but yeah, it was an interesting vibe in the room. It definitely was like, so yeah.
Well, you must be my spirit animal, because I do stuff like that all the time. I embarrass myself constantly. I remember being just jet lagged on a flight. I was a teenager. I can't remember where we were flying to, but it was a long flight. And somebody in front of me must have also been jet lagged too, I hope. She was really grumpy and turned around and said, "It's freezing in here. Would you close the window?" And I went, and I closed the blind on the airplane window. And my sister was like, "You idiot. Windows don't open in airplanes." Yeah. We would be sucked out. I was like, "Oh yeah, right. Sorry. I'm going to go back to sleep here." But that's too funny.
I love that. I think it makes you remain human, doesn't it? Through all of the things in your life.
Humble. It keeps you humble.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I said on that flight was we were flying over England.
Oh wow.
Heathrow. And I said, "Oh look, isn't that cute? That's a miniature version of Stonehenge." And she was like, "No, you idiot. We're 30,000 feet in the air." Okay, I'm really not this stupid usually, but when I don't have sleep, that's one of my core values is get 8 hours of sleep a night. So
I mean, I had sleep, so I don't know what was wrong with me that day.
You were just in a new environment, right?
Yeah.
Trying to, be fit in. And, I hear this a lot. I think things are changing though out there, thankfully, because I would be that person in the boardroom, like spinning in my chair and going, wee, right? I'm kind of a little bit goofy. I have a goofy side, right? I don't take myself too seriously. And it can be kind of scary to show our true colors in that sort of environment. Do you feel like that's shifting and changing a little bit, like
I
for the
think
professionals out there?
Yeah, I do feel it is, and thankfully actually, because certainly the teams that I've worked with, the generations coming through now are amazing. They are liberated. They are, they want to be themselves and they want to be respected in their own space. And I think because of that, I think it's made people have to change. Actually, I've had different people act in different ways around me because of my silliness or the lightness that I bring to business. And what I have found now, actually, in bigger business, I think it's even more important, is that because our customers, I came from retail brands, because our customers want genuine, authentic brands. If you're working in an environment where you can't be yourself, then it starts to hurt the brands because people aren't happy, and it kind of seeps through, I think. So I think it is changing, but I think that there is a long way to go, a long way to go still.
Yeah, especially as you mentioned in the larger organizations, I think they're still, stuck in their ways of putting on that corporate facade and really having to be very buttoned up, or thinking they have to be very buttoned up and corporate sounding, in order to be taken seriously,
Yeah,
right?
really.
Um, so in the way you work with clients, like tell us now about a little bit about what you do. So what makes what you do unique, and who do you serve? Who do you work with? And how do you bring also, if I can add this, how do you bring that corporate experience into what you do now?
Okay. So the way I approach things, so the reason I set up the Sunshine Consultancy was because of that bigger purpose. So it was because I really truly believe that doing serious work means it doesn't mean you have to be serious all the time. And actually, the more at ease you are with yourself, the more you can open yourself up to vulnerability to really get to kind of like the nuts and bones of understanding your brand. So what I do at the moment is I work in a very bespoke way depending on what my clients need. So I have very different businesses. Some are they're small to medium businesses. So some are, say, up to about 10 people within their business. I've also got some solopreneurs. And then I also have some just pure coaching clients as well. But when I'm like running my marketing or branding workshops, really my approach is understanding their goals, and certainly really building a relationship of trust where the founders can open up and be honest with themselves, honest with me, about what we need to do to move their business forward. And so it's a bit of it's a very, you have to create a very safe space,
Yeah.
non-judgmental. And I think what I've found quite interesting is, sometimes if you're working with people that have been in business for, say, like 12 to 13 years, sometimes they forget why they even started, and I had one client, and I was talking to them, and we were trying to explore, they wanted to grow their business. They were a solopreneur, but they'd been in business for about 12 years, and they needed to expand. So they needed to build out from a brand perspective. So it wasn't just going to be about them. And so I really had to take them on this journey of like falling back in love with why they had chosen to do what they were doing. And yeah, that it's a very privileged and personal position to be in, to watch that. And towards the end of our sessions, so I will do workshops, like daily workshops. We'll set the goals, and like I say, some of those will be different, but by the end of that workshop, you really get clarity on genuinely why people are so passionate about what they do. And then what that leads to in further workshops is how we can communicate it fundamentally. So it helps them talk about why they do what they do with authenticity.
Yeah, that reconnecting with why are we doing this in the first place? Um, to me, that's essential in business, because you're going to wake up every day and it's going to be different. Some days are going to be harder than others. You're going to have to, give yourself a reason why you're actually doing this thing some days, right?
Mm.
And not something else, and not throwing in the towel. So, when you're talking with that company that was 12 or 13 years old, and you were starting to dig in there, asking them about, their why, was there any pushback? Was there any strange looks? Sometimes I get these, like, why are we talking about this? I thought we were just like setting metrics and doing the
Yeah.
tactics and doing the marketing, right? So how do people respond to you when you start digging into these deeper questions? Like you developed this atmosphere of trust and respect and a safe space, but how do they respond to some of these questions you ask about their why? What is their reaction?
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's a great question. So sometimes it can be uncomfortable. I think through the years I have learned how to hold the space of uncomfortableness.
Mm.
And I don't quite know how to explain this, but I think you can hold an energy in a space where it's actually okay for there to be a 3-minute silence without, as long as you're comfortable in it, I think you can then just allow the other person time to think. Because in this particular case, when I was asking some of the kind of questions of trying to understand, to dig down, it felt like, we were kind of coming back to the what a lot. So this was the what, and this is how I
Yeah.
do it, because people are really, they can sing that, they know that. And I think, holding that space, but also breaking the focus and maybe asking about something that is a little bit less trivial. So I might ask quite a kind of point and deep question a couple of times, and then if it's not really, if they're struggling and we've had space, I'll change the subject. I'll kind of break the thought process, and try and go, kind of open up a little bit more in a different area, and then come back, because it is tiring, and it's quite
Mhm.
it's very emotional for people, actually, because you're really getting into, things that they probably thought about years and years ago, but they haven't brought it up, for a while. So and it's usually something that is, like I say, it's usually something, it will be a reason why, a triggered reason, or, so it is, yeah, you kind of had to hold the space, but also know when to bring a bit of lightness. So you're not staring into their soul for too long.
Right. Yeah, that's where your sunshine comes in,
Yeah.
the Sunshine Consultancy, right? The balance there. But it is hard to talk about some of these things, and
Mm.
especially if you've forgotten the reason why, it can get emotional. I've had that occur
Yeah.
in my strategy sessions with clients too, so it can be an emotional time for them. So it's almost like those sessions are almost a little bit like therapy sessions
Yeah.
sometimes. They can be
Yeah.
that way, right? I don't know if you find that as well.
Yeah, they
Um,
can. They can. And but when you hit on something, um, last Friday, uh, I had a session, and we hit on, so the goal was around actually finding a new name for the business. And
Mm.
transparently, at the beginning of the session, I was thinking in my own head, wow, this is like a really big ask for like one session.
Right.
And I was like, we'll go through the process, see what happens. And we got to the end of the day, and it was, we'd been talking, we talked about the why, we'd really got into things, values, goals, and all of a sudden, we'd started to kind of brainstorm, and we weren't getting anywhere. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to bring the, I think I'm going to have to bring this to a close. And then all of a sudden, something dropped in, and we went down a different route. And both of us were like, okay, so does this feel right? Oh my God, this feels right. And it, for both of us, it felt like
Mm.
a moment, and like a gut reaction to, wow, oh my God. And even I was thinking, I've done this a lot, but even it takes my breath away sometimes when that happens, and you're a bit like, wow, wow. So I definitely needed a glass of wine after that session. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely magical when that happens, but
Yeah.
it happens every time. Like, I'm the same as you. I'll get on a call with someone and I'll be like, "Okay, what is it gonna be this time?" Right? It's you don't your client has the answers in them. It's
Yeah.
your job to help bring them out. So you're the facilitator of that. And that's how I see myself. When I first started doing this, I thought, how am I going to have all the answers? How am I going to know? I don't have the answers. I just know how to ask the questions and how to
Yeah.
bring it all out, because it's all in there somewhere. It's just you haven't thought about it, or nobody's asked you the right questions. The best questions are when I get the reaction of, I've never thought about that, or that's a good question. And they pause, and there is that pause, right? They've never
Yeah.
thought about this. And you're like, okay, there might be something there. So there's always those golden moments in the strategy sessions that you have to just be able to pull them out and then recognize them when they happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know, the journey of business can be overwhelming sometimes.
Mm.
Um, and, I know that you talked about how it's important to find your why, and it's important to bring that levity and that sunshine into your brand, into your business. Can you give us maybe up to 3 actionable steps that somebody can implement today,
Yeah.
um, to help them shift their business to that place where they're loving it, right? Where it is a bowl of sunshine for them. What are your steps that you might recommend to someone like that who's overwhelmed?
Yeah. So my 3 steps would be, well, number one would be kind to yourself. Is, and we are our worst critic, aren't we? So if it's not coming to you, the why, quickly, or you're not quite sure where to start, number one, don't berate yourself,
Mm.
because this is a hard thing to do. And so just be kind to yourself. My first step would be, I would get a flip chart or a piece of paper, or I would do it on your screen, and I would start with all of the words, thinking back to why you started to do it, or why
Mhm.
your brand feels so good. And I talk to my clients about, ask your friends, ask your family, ask your partners.
Mm.
These are the people that know you the most. And we're not very good at sometimes flying our own flags, are we? So I would get an outsider view for sure, from people that know you the best, and I would just look at some of those words and really try to just take a moment to think about, what this is what I do, this is what I'm enabling, this is why people choose me. And then the second point would be to move those on to a bigger picture. So I'd ask myself, so I'd say, like, so I said, Tash, so you know so why don't you want to stay in your corporate job where it's really safe,
Mhm.
and so somebody pays you at the end of the month, and you don't have to worry about that? Why have you done this? And at first I was like, well, I want to be my authentic self, and I want to do that. And then I was like, no, this is bigger than me. So I'd really
Mhm.
encourage everybody to think about, this is bigger than you. What are you trying to do for others? And what are you trying to move, be it in your sphere of influence, be it, you might have a big society piece. So to think bigger than yourself, and to give yourself permission to dream bigger. um,
Mhm.
and I would do that as my second step. And then my third step is, don't freak out about dreaming big. Because you will get there, but you need to make a plan to get there. So that would be my third step, is be really clear on what your plan is and your next steps to that dream.
To that big hairy goal. Well, yeah, those are great steps. And we are our own worst critics. I know that, imposter syndrome is real. And usually the people that have the biggest imposter syndrome are the people that are really excellent at what they do, because we just care so
Yeah.
deeply about what we do and how we add value to our clients. So I'm glad you shared that as the first step. And
Yeah.
yeah, and getting it all down on paper. And um, would you say, I guess, I mean, it's probably easier to do this with someone if you're really stuck, right? Someone
Yeah.
who knows your business, like you said, a friend. who has known you for a while, knows what you're trying to achieve. Sometimes we are like, I use this analogy of, as a business owner, it's like we're stuck inside of a bottle and we're trying to read the label
Yeah,
on the outside of the bottle. And sometimes it's really hard for us to come out and
yeah, that's
see our business the way others, like the way our clients see it, and to understand, what value, how they value us and how they see us. So it is good to sometimes get that outside perspective too of somebody you trust, right? Whether it's a
yeah.
coach or someone who's known you for a long time. Yeah.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah. So I want to also ask you, how do you help raise tides for others? How do you, it could be in your community or with your clients, but I love this idea of being collaborative with others and helping. I mean, that's the name of the podcast, is Rising Tides. So
Yeah,
I have always been that person where I love to collaborate over competing with other people. I think there's enough space for all of us to do our own thing. There's enough work out there for all of us. How do you collaborate and how do you raise tides for others?
yeah. So, um, I mean, it's great, and actually, it's the reason why, just for yourself and for Kim, it's the reason why I wanted to be on your podcast, actually, because I could really see that. So thank you, because I think it's really important, and certainly, women in business and really lifting each other up is super important. So thank you for that. I think what I try and do. So at the moment, I actually offer coaching sessions. So for a lot of the people within my wider network, so people that potentially will have maybe worked for me, moved on. So I try and offer mentoring continuously and coaching sessions because for me, leadership is really important, and trying to support kind of younger people to really understand their value and their leadership skills, and they can't always afford to pay for kind of business coach, or maybe they don't have that system within their own workspace. So I offer free coaching, which is something that I really love doing for kind of younger professionals and I use my NLP knowledge in that space to really build their confidence. So that's kind of what I've started doing, but I'd like to take that wider because I do think having somebody in your corner to kind of run things past, to talk, to think, is really important, and also a bit of security as well as you're going through your own career. So I'm a big a big kind of I think women are amazing, and I think we are doing lots of different things, trying to keep all the balls in the air. And no matter where I go around the world, I am always like so taken aback by how wonderful women are to other women. I've been lucky enough through my career that I've had some great mentors, some kind of really strong leaders, that have really, sometimes I've kind of got, oh, I'm not quite sure, but they've put me on the right path, and they've always championed me, and they've always been my cheerleader. So I want to do that for other people.
Oh, that's amazing that you offer that for young professionals getting started.
Yeah,
That's so great. I know, I wish I had had a mentor when I was starting out. I just did this thing on my own, but nobody is an island, right?
yeah,
Nobody can get there on their own. It's all about the relationships that you have, the connections you have. Everyone needs that cheerleader and champion in their lives to get to that next goal, because it's not easy.
yeah,
Um, it's not easy being on your own, especially like you don't have the security of that
yeah,
corporate paycheck at the end of the month, right?
yeah,
You don't have that. So, how do you get there? And you can definitely get there a lot faster if you have someone in your corner that's sharing knowledge. So I'm super happy to hear that you are, paying it forward to the
Yeah.
next generation of entrepreneurs. That's pretty special.
Yeah, it's something, and I have a wonderful group of women around me that are my supporters that I call on regularly, whether it's just I need my brightness a little bit shined up, or and they are always, they're always there, for me, and I'm always there for them. And yeah, I feel very lucky and very grateful for that network of support that I have.
Yeah, that's awesome. Everyone should have that. Like I say, I didn't have that in the beginning, and then I got connected with some groups of other creatives and professionals that, were like me, and it just catapulted. It just helped me launch into a different zone of business. So if you're starting out, I really recommend, finding those people and that network to really help you grow and build upon your success. So you'll get there a lot faster if you do that. So yeah, I have a few more questions left here to ask you. So I want to know, we ask all our guests, like, what are they reading right now? What's feeding your soul? What's got you what are you interested in right now? Is there a book you're reading, a podcast you're following along with, or a course, or
Well,
do you have your own book?
Yeah, well, I haven't got my own book yet, but we never know. I think it's going to take me a while, though. I would say I've just so there's a couple of so there's a podcast called The Diary of the CEO, The Diary of the CEO. So Stephen Barnett, have you heard of him? He is amazing. It's a podcast. Look him up, because he's a CEO, and he interviews lots of different people from lots of different walks of life, psychologists to like Richard Branson, like really unique guests, and he just asks them, like, again, really interesting questions. And sometimes, to your point, Angela, the days where you just are like, oh my God, I'm not really quite sure if I can keep doing this. I put one of his podcasts on, and I'm like, no, I can do it. Keep going, Tash, you're fine. So I definitely recommend that. And then I also read The Midnight Library, which is here actually, by Matt Haig, and a friend gave me this. And we always write in it when we give our kind of books to each other. We put a little message in there, and that is a really lovely read, but it's about infinite lives and living infinite lives, and it's just it's a lovely way of exploring or listening to different lives being led, and that there's this search, and we're all on our own journey, aren't we? And I again feel lucky enough to feel like this is my next life. Like, I've had this career, this is great, and now I'm moving into a different space. And so the Midnight Library, really just reflect that for me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think a big regret that people have is not have ever doing what they wanted to do, always doing what somebody else has expected of them to do, and not having found that thing that fulfills them.
Yeah.
So that's when I help somebody with their branding and their business, planning of their brand and all that. I love just the feeling of knowing that I'm helping them fulfill this big hairy idea that they are so bravely pursuing, because it's not easy to stand alone as a solopreneur or open a business or, hire employees and start this thing. So I think that's something that I think a lot of more of us need in our lives, is like, why am I doing, like, to live more consciously, right? And to ask ourselves, am I doing what I love, and why not? And how could I, feel more fulfilled at the end of the day? I think that would make for a lot more sunshinier people in the world, right?
In the UK, we need more sunshine.
Yeah, you do. You do. I'm lucky I live in a very sunny province here in Canada, but yes, I believe you guys do. And that's where you come in. So there you go. Well, I want to ask where people can find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to find out more about you, if they want to become a client, how can they find you?
So I would go to my website, so the sunshineconsultancy.co.uk. Have a look at the website. There's my services on there. You can book discovery sessions. But yeah, all of my information's on there. Obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn, Natasha Bell, the Sunshine Consultancy. And obviously I've got my socials of Instagram and Facebook. But I definitely go to the website because it kind of talks about the different product offering and the kind of different coaching solutions as well. So have a look at the website. Any feedback? Great feedback.
Perfect, Tash. We'll put that in our show notes.
Thank you.
Last question I have for you. What was the best advice that you have received in business or in life that really put the wind in your sails so you could go the distance?
Okay. The best advice. So can I have two? Really?
Yeah, sure.
So
Go for it.
my first people have always said, Tash, like always be yourself. Because sometimes I do. I feel like the odd one out, or the loudest laugher, that's how that can feel quite, kind of daunting. So definitely always be yourself, because you are your best beautiful self. But then the second piece was somebody said something to me. So this was somebody who was very, very high up in an organization. I really had this person on a pedestal. And I was having a mentoring session and I was talking about imposter syndrome. And this person just leaned in and went, we all get that, right? But we don't talk about it at the moment because, I have to lead like thousands of people. And right now what they need from me is confidence. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think, the other piece is really kind of knowing it in yourself, but also knowing that sometimes you're not going to feel like that. You're really not. But sometimes other people might need you to feel like that. And that's okay. And that is okay.
Yeah, it's good to know that, people that get up on stage regularly, they feel that too. It's not just you. So it's quite common. I think for women especially, it's very common for us to feel that way. We have high expectations of ourselves. So yes. But yes, always be yourself and have confidence. And confidence is, I don't think you have to feel confident in order to do something. You just have to take that next step and, learn from it. If you fall flat on your face, nobody will probably remember but you. So just take that next step and you'll gain the confidence from the small wins that you create for yourself. But if you never try, you'll never develop that confidence. So, well, Tash, I thank you for your time today and for sharing about, how you bring sunshine into the world. And it was so nice to get to know you a little bit more. And thank you so much for being on the show. I hope we get to speak again sometime on the show.
Yeah, it's been lovely. Thank you, and thank you to Kim, because like I say, it's really amazing to have this space to talk, and so it's been lovely, really lovely. So hopefully I'll be back at some point.
Yeah, wonderful. We'd love to have you back. And thank you everyone for watching. That's a wrap for today. And we hope